Yo, what up, G?
Hey, what's up, man?
Welcome to the show, man.
All right.
Welcome to the pod. So today our topic is about poverty. Um, and poverty is gonna be a heavy topic for us because it's gonna basically open up a closet of a lot of demons. Um, because going through poverty is not easy. But before we go in depth in the conversation, I want us to talk about like what rap lyric do you think about when you think about the conditions that you were in? You know what I mean? Because
I can see it already. Like, man, I'ma buy a big house. I'ma buy a big car, big Benz. Yeah, I'ma get my mom out the crib. I'ma get my family out the crib. Like, everybody's gonna hear my name. Damn. This morning I just woke up black. Race don't exist, but I woke up black. Sun in my face, I just woke up black. In this white man world, I just woke up black. This morning I just woke up black. Race don't exist, but I woke up black. Sun in my face, I just woke up black. In this white man world, I just woke up black.
even though we all went through poverty, we all went through different forms of poverty. So Gio, you want to start us off with your rap lyric? Like, what is one rap lyric that describes your condition?
Well, yeah, for sure. So there's this artist that goes by the name of Young Dolph. Rest in peace, Young Dolph, and his brother Key Glock that dropped a song called "One Hell of a Night." And I play this song almost once a night, only because of this one liner that says, "I pray every night because I live one hell of a life."
Mm.
And it almost reminds me of, it actually does remind me of my upbringing back in Ditmas, on Flatbush, where there were a lot of gun violence going on every single day. There were sometimes bodies found in front of the buildings of the old building that I used to live in. So when I go back to this line, praying every night because it's one hell of a life, it's actually a crazy life, when you think about it. Um,
Yeah.
but when we think about these lyrics, Remy, man, what is one lyric that
Before
mhm,
Remy go, man, R.I.P. to Young Dolph, man. Like,
yeah,
RP.
I got into his music late. It's always a tragedy to see somebody die. Um, and it was just he died because of hate. You know what I mean? Hate in our community. Remy, go ahead.
Um, the so your question was what rap
What rap
lyrics
lyric, reminds you of the conditions you grew up in?
um condition that reminds me of the poverty that I grew up in.
Yeah,
Um,
the condition you grew up in your neighborhood, man. What rap lyric reminds you of that?
well, one of my all-time favorite rappers, top five, he's in there, of course, will be Nas. And always listen to Nas. Nas was just a powerful rapper that just had an interesting way with words and could just string words away to create a powerful picture and powerful image. And one of the songs that he made is called, I think it's a recent song, it's called Everything by Nas. And one of the lyrics was, one of the lyrics is, if I had everything, everything, I can change anything. If I change anything, I mean anything, I would change everything. And then it goes on to say, dark boy, don't you cry. There's too much life left in those eyes. So every time I listen to that song, it definitely reminds me of, the poverty that I went through and how it affected me and impacted me mentally. Just because when we're going in those conditions and we don't have anything, we're deprived of just the basic necessities. All we want is some form of power or money or resources just so we could be able to change everything and being and trying to change everything and also just trying to change anything because we go through these consistent moments where we don't have and it's a struggle and it's hard and it impacts us tremendously and just eventually it'll weigh on you mentally because you want to change all these things because you don't have anything but then you can't change it because you don't have anything, so you're constantly stuck in this this mental state where it's like, dang, I want this, I want that, but I can't do anything to get those things. And I feel like just being in that state of mind every day, it'll weigh down on you. And that's why in the song it goes, dark boy, connecting to our skin color, don't you cry, because wanting to change everything every day and you can't, it's frustrating. It's going to lead you to crying every day, and it's going to weigh down on you mentally, and it's going to begin to impact you and affect you in multiple ways. What about you, if you could jump on that and piggyback onto that?
Yeah, I mean, I got another Nas song too, man. We was on the same wavelength with that when
Yeah.
we thought about the beginning of the show. Nas has a song, Triple Bean Dreams. I think Rick Ross has a song and Nas is featured on it.
Mm-hmm.
And his he opens up saying a project minded individual, criminal tactics, us black kids born with birth defects, we hyperactive, mentally sex crazed, dysfunctional as they described us, they liars. At the end of the day, we effing survivors. And I thought that lyric
Damn.
speaks volumes about our condition because yeah, we go through all those things, but we're just surviving our community and
Yeah.
what we've been through. So I thought that lyric was definitely um, correlates with what I went through.
Right. Definitely. And
Hmm.
just like to tie all that in, it's just powerful how there's a common theme and a common thread with all the lyrics that we use and how it connects to our poverty-stricken condition and the impacts that the negative components and negative effects that it will have on our mental state. Like your lyrics talk about being a project-minded individual and criminal tactics. When you're living in the projects, you are financially stricken. You know what I'm saying? You're not there because you're wealthy. You're there because of the exact opposite. And you're trying to make ends meet. And sometimes you may not be able to do so the right way. So in your mind, you may turn or want to turn to criminal activities just to get it. You know what I'm saying? Just to live, just to be able to, afford the basic necessities of life. And that will impact you mentally because it's like, do I really got to do these things in order to survive? And then connecting to, what I said, just constantly wanting to change your circumstances and not being able to because you have no power, you have no money, you want to change everything, but you can't change anything. Being in that constant state is going to overwhelm you and it's going to affect you mentally. Your mental state is going to start to decline. And then adding on what Gio said, you know, praying every night because you live one hell of a life. That's powerful. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what's gonna happen to you being in these poverty stricken environments. You're not sure what's gonna happen to you when you leave the next day. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So you're in a constant state of prayer because you're worried about what may happen to you. And just that being on our mind every day, every day, every day of course is gonna lead to mental illness and mental decay. And I just wanted to say that because I just thought that was powerful, just connecting all the lyrics that we used. And I just thought that was deep.
I appreciate you for saying that.
Yeah.
That gives me to the thought. Like I want the audience to know how where we come from.
Hmm.
Can somebody start off and let the audience know like describe how it was growing up in our community?
Well,
Can you
yeah,
start
for
it off,
sure.
Gio?
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel like that's a powerful prompt. It's so vast. The answer could be so vast.
Hmm.
But for me specifically, growing up for me was just socks that had to be reused all the time.
Right.
Once you wash them, the stains are still there, but you had to go to school in them.
Facts.
Walking everywhere. There's no actual car that you had to transport yourself, and you see other kids in schools having that opportunity, but transportation sucks. There
Hmm.
was gangs almost every corner that you walk in back in 2000. There are Crips and Bloods everywhere. There's the Jawbreakers, you name it. They even
Yeah.
make up gang names and they exist. They want you to
Hmm.
join you, and that also is there too. And the list goes on. Very little opportunity um, as well, because very quick rant. I remember when I was 21, the only opportunities that I ever had, growing in this poverty state, growing in this black community, was McDonald's or working as a paraprofessional or working very minimum wage jobs. But I had peers that had lighter color skin than me. I could call them Caucasian, and they would have, or and they would be in these better communities. And when they reach the age of 21, I would see that their opportunities are greater than mine. Something that you could just sit down and appreciate now if you sit back and see the different ideals of, you know, these different types of communities. But bringing this back to poverty, that's kind of the picture that I have, just gangs, very little food, very little money, very little opportunity. But Remy, man, I want to know from you.
That's powerful. I liked your answer. That's a powerful answer. I caught your underlining message too. I think that was dope. That's dope. What poverty looked like to me, in my neighborhood growing up, I grew up in the projects. So I grew up in, Cypress Hills projects, East New York. So that it was crazy, man. Like, it was just crazy. Some of the things that I seen when I was younger, and just, they say hindsight is 20/20. Sometimes you don't realize what you're looking at when you're younger, and when you get older and you get wiser, you see it. But just like the poverty that I witnessed in my neighborhood, it was just, to me, it looked like what poverty looked like to me growing up in that neighborhood is just not being able to afford the basic necessities of life without struggling. You know what I mean? My mom did her best to keep a roof over our head, but you could see that being a single mom and struggling, trying to make ends meet, you could see it weighing down on her. You know what I'm saying? And then that inadvertently trickling down on us as kids and as, young men, seeing that, being like, yo, man, we can't make ends meet. So that affects everybody in the family. And just seeing everyone in your neighborhood, even your immediate family, just struggling to provide the basics. You know what I'm saying? Having to make sacrifices like, yo, if I pay for this, then I'm not going to be able to afford this. But I got to pay for this because this right now is a priority. So, just to reiterate and go back, for me, like what I witnessed growing up in the projects and sense of poverty is just, families in those neighborhoods just not being able to afford the basic necessities of life without having to struggle from day to day or week to week or month to month and worry about everything basically. So if I'll shift the question to you, Ivans, what would you say? If you could describe how poverty looked like in your neighborhoods growing up, how would you describe that?
Growing up in our area, they like to call it the jungle. I know y'all heard it. And you never realize why you always gotta think like, why do we call it the jungle? And then when you get older and you get a little more education, and you realize like, yo, this is the jungle, because you gotta poverty creates hunger, not only like the physical hunger, but the hunger to get out. And so the hunger to get out, or in the physical hunger, causes like other things to happen. Like Gio mentioned gangs. There was gangs in my building. There was gangs when you walked out the building. There was gangs when you went to school. So you couldn't avoid it. It was everywhere. Shootings definitely happen. And with poverty, since poverty is the mother of crime, you see a lot of criminal activities, which means increased police presence. Which is understandable. If it's a high crime area, you're gonna have a lot of police presence. But what ends up happening is police presence equals police oppression, because it becomes racialized instead of being criminalized. And even innocent people like me, you, Gio, even though we're not committing criminal activities, we're still affected by the police presence, and we're still affected by the crime. And that definitely weighs on our mental health.
Yeah, I want to say you said something interesting. You said
Mm-hmm.
poverty is the mother of crime. So
Mm-hmm.
that actually like struck a nerve in me. So what would you why would you say like I'm trying to phrase it properly. So why do you think poverty leads to crime? Why do you think that happens? Or why do you think
Yeah,
there's a direct correlation between the two?
I think poverty affects crime because when you because when you're in poverty, you're in a constant state of survival because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the means. Because poverty means you don't have the means to live an adequate life.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you sleeping on the street or you living paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you're living paycheck to paycheck, um, you're apt to do more things to get the money,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if you don't have no opportunity, which what happens in a lot of poverty-stricken areas, you then start to turn to crime to get those to survive.
Yeah.
Because the first law for humans is to preserve themselves. I think that's the first law of,
The
like
preservation of life.
yeah, preservation of life. You got to preserve yourself. I know I said that wrong, but we automatically try to preserve our life. And
Yeah.
sometimes preserving your life means robbing somebody. Sometimes
Mm,
preserving your life means
Mm.
killing somebody.
mm,
Sometimes preserving your life means betraying somebody that you trusted or loved.
yeah.
Um, so that's a great question. That's why I said that poverty is the mother of crime. It doesn't mean that everybody that's in poverty commit crime.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Some people
right.
just suffers through it. Like
Yeah.
Just some people.
like us. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
some people just pushed through it and just worked hard and went and persevered and got to a goal. You know what I mean?
right.
And other people were like, "Nah, we're not doing that. That's hard. We rather rob somebody."
Right.
You know what I mean? So it depends on individual person is different.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
Uh,
I actually want to ask you something because you said
yeah.
something um that triggered something in my mind where you said that it weighed heavy on your mental.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was the impact of poverty on your mental health, Remy?
Dang. That that's a heavy question. I feel like there's so many different ways that you could tackle it. But for me personally, um, how did poverty, growing up poverty, how did it affect my mental mindset? Um, it it makes you want to do more. It makes you want to do more. It makes you want to try to achieve more just so you can help out more. You know what I mean? So watching, because I grew up in a single family household, which a lot of us do grow up in.
And your
So
mom
just
and your mom and your mom raised four kids, right?
yeah, I'm at 4 boys. I got three brothers. Three brothers.
Oh boys,
So
bro. So like that's amazing. Sometimes we be thinking that mothers are like are not human, man. They human.
yeah,
And they grew up in the hood just like
For
us
real.
too. So they
yeah,
go through a lot, just like we
yeah,
do. So shout out to the single mothers out there that's raising black boys in this world, man. Go ahead.
yeah, and that's why like I I just got so much love and respect, for the woman, out there, um, every shape, way, or form. But in connection to just growing up, like watching my mother struggle with four of us and just being in Cyprus, being in projects, I'm just looking at that and I'm like, yeah, I want to do something. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But you young, there's only there's only so much you could do. Can't do much. And you young, you can't get a job, can't help out financially, you can't lighten the load. Not right now. Your only objective is to just go to school, and that can help out later on. But the situation is dire, and the situation is happening now. You know what I'm saying? So watching my mom, struggle and just me wanting to help out so much to alleviate her burden, to alleviate everything that she was struggling with, you know, that was just constantly on my mind. Like, yo, how
Mhm.
can I help? What can I do? But then when you're that young and you don't even have resources of your own and you're not even old enough to work to acquire these resources, it's like, yo, how can I? It's like you can't do anything. So essentially, you just gotta watch this person. that is taking care of you, this person that gave you life, that's raising you, keeping a roof over your head. You just gotta watch her go through it and struggle and wait until you're finally in a situation where you could help her out financially. And just being young and just watching that, day in and day out, it weighed down on me. It will weigh down on any child heavily, that you can't do nothing for somebody that's so important to you financially to alleviate their burdens. And it was just something that was just always on my mind constantly, and definitely affected me in school, affected my social interactions with individuals, but at the end of the day, you just know that you have to find a way to control that, because you don't want to do something that's going to add more stress onto a situation that's already stressful. You know what I mean? So that's just how, that's how it was for me. If I were to push it over to Gio, what would you say about that, man? What was the
Yeah.
impact of, growing up in a poverty stricken environment on your mental health and well being?
Well, same here. I felt like this question is a heavy one.
Yeah.
But as I was hearing you, Remy, thinking about that piece of motivation and how just thinking about staying motivated throughout this this poverty state, just staying motivated, just
Yeah.
helping out your mental.
Mm.
But for me specifically, I grew up in a religious background. I grew up as a Baptist.
Yeah.
And our background is just to have a belief system
Mm.
in something to know that our tomorrow is going to be better.
Yeah.
And that's everything that we believed in. Even though we were broke, the bills wasn't getting paid, we were believing in a better tomorrow. We knew the water bill was not getting paid. We were just believing in a better tomorrow. And as a kid, literally, I would just be believing in a better tomorrow, but I don't see better tomorrows.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like it happens on year after year, like
Mm.
decades after decades. And
Yeah.
then you end up being 27, still looking for these better tomorrows. So it's like, that impact on that mind, it it really it really daunts on it,
Yeah.
growing up poor, because sometimes you have to block out the idea of even being poor just so you could exist in this world and kind of be happy,
Yeah.
because nobody even wants to sit here on this beautiful earth to know that they're poor. I would rather sit here and be like, I'm a rich man. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But and that's an idea. And I just want to pull this idea too. Um, the impact of poverty when I was growing up in middle school.
Mm.
Um, I used to go to middle school with
Mm.
only uniform, but the rules were you get to be fly or you get to wear uniform if you broke. That was
Yeah.
the rule, pretty much, because they were like, you
Especially
could
Claire
dress up.
Barn too. There was a time in Claire Barn that we had uniform.
Yeah,
And
they came up with the uniform rule. However, if you wanted to dress down, you could come dress down, and that just destroyed my whole mentality. Why
Yeah.
did that destroy my mentality? As soon as they dropped that rule, I looked at my bank account. I'm over here like, there's no money I could buy no fresh clothes off of. I have to come to school in uniform, and guess what
Right.
happens? I get bullied. You know what I'm saying? And this is in middle school. I get bullied.
Yeah.
I get jumped just because I don't get the flyers. I don't have the flyers clothes.
Mm.
And after those experiences, of course, it's going to affect your mental health, and of
Mm.
course, it's going to impact you.
Mm.
So, of course, going back to the question, how did this impact poverty impact my mental health? It impacted it for the worst, but just staying motivated throughout it just helps it out.
Yeah.
But if I was to ship it off to you, Mr. Berger, what about you, man?
yeah, I mean, a lot of things that you guys just were saying, I resonate with, especially when Gio was saying that like when you're in poverty, you all you could do is have faith, and faith is just to believe in things that are not seen.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We didn't see. I never saw. I only saw one master's degree. Shout out to Steve. Um, one master's degree in the hood, one master's degree, and it was a history degree too. And crazy thing, I got my bachelor's in history, so one master's degree. Didn't see, didn't know what a lawyer looked like. Didn't see a lawyer. Didn't the only doctor I saw was a doctor my pediatrician. So we don't really see enough people that look like us that are successful professionals. The only people that we see successful is rappers and athletes, and preachers. So that definitely resonated with me. For how to impact my mental health, I look at it from the standpoint of like I feel like my mental health was impacted from my mother because my mother was going through tough environments. You know what I mean? She had to navigate the streets before I did. You know what I mean? So she was in New York before me. So she was going through the daily stress of being poor in buildings that there was times where we had to boil hot water because the pipes was out. You know what I mean? There was no hot water coming from the pipes. So you had to boil. There was no cold water coming from the pipes.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. Yeah, there's no hot water.
Hot water. So you had to boil that water.
Pipes. There was rats and roaches everywhere. Like there was we mentioned it before, shootings and all that. And what it causes is you realize that money equals dignity. And I didn't have no dignity being in my community and growing up poor, which led to a lot of anxiety, which is just basically fear of am I good enough? And you don't realize you're good enough until you get older, or until somebody believes in you. And a lot of times you don't have that person to believe in you where you come from. And a lot of people pick the negative images, constant stress, constant stress of just every day, like worrying, not only worrying about whether I make it home safe, worried about my mother making it home safe.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you hear the media, you see the media talking about crime, you see crime, you almost get robbed walking home. So you're like, damn, if they could try to rob me, they could rob my mother. And then you see on the news that they rob mothers. So that constant stress of like, damn, and I know you guys experience walking home from somewhere, coming from the train station and walking to your crib. Yeah. Like, damn, God, if you just make me get to the crib, I love you to death. So there's times where you doing that, you clutching whatever weapon you have on you because you wary of who's gonna come out of nowhere. So that constant flight or flight feeling definitely for me causes like I got extreme anxiety. Sometimes I'm antisocial. Sometimes I want to be by myself. Sometimes I get, especially more when I was younger, a lot of depression, a lot of nights where you just tearing up because you're like, damn, like why am I in this position? Why don't nobody show me love? Because everybody wants to seek validation,
right,
from the world or somebody that that believes in them. And when you're poor, your mom is working a lot. You don't really get that from your mom. Even though she love her, but she don't tell you that, or she don't have time to hug you or say, yo, baby, I love you.
Yeah.
She don't have time. And you thinking your mom don't love her, but she's loving you because you got food on the table, you got a roof over your head.
Right.
She don't got time to give you that actual, I love you, here, let me give you a hug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you start feeling like, yo, you don't got no love. So at some point, all those crying turns into numbing. And you got to numb it just for you to push forward.
Yeah.
And then let it out on certain occasions.
Definitely. So you had a lot of elements in there, and we kind of touched based on a lot of those things, especially like going back to the crime and just certain behaviors we exhibit because of being in these poverty-stricken neighborhoods and these circumstances. So I guess a question that would come to my mind that I would ask is, do you feel like we cause mental health issues amongst ourselves because of poverty? Do we inflict that on ourselves because of poverty? What would you say about that? Let me start off with Gio.
That's a good one. I feel like once we think, if we really think about it, this idea of poverty, um, it it could almost seem like it's a taught thing, like something that it could be passed on. So it's like when we see it in our communities, we see our neighbors poor, we see the next block poor, we see every community that's next to each other poor, and the poor in the communities that we are in also being poor. All the people that are exercising the poorness,
Yeah.
they they're they got it from someplace, and I'm feeling that it's something that's generational. So I kind of see it as a loop, right? Where it's kind of a taught thing. So to answer the question, if we inflict ourselves with the trauma, I would have to say, yeah, we kind of do. Um, we inflict ourselves with the trauma within our communities by by not trying to push ourselves out of poverty. I seen my parents go through credit cards like credit cards was crack, like credit cards was the way out of the hood. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like sometimes growing up as a kid, you would love to learn more about finances, but your parents only did credit and they
Right.
don't know nothing about 401ks, IRAs, anything like that to get themselves prepared for $1 million once they're 60. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because these are things that we're not taught. Our parents never taught us how to get out of the hood. They only
Right.
taught us what they know. Wake up, do a 9 to 5, and you feed the children, put a roof over their heads, and then once they pass away, what's the kid gonna do for their kids? Do the same thing? Like we're supposed to be getting out of this cycle. We're supposed to be getting out of these traumas. We're supposed to be getting out of these different loops,
Yeah.
these mental loops that we were taught in the past from our past ancestors,
Yeah.
so we could, build our wealth and get into a high position. But I'm not saying, also, I'm not saying that this is all communities. I'm not saying that this is all Black communities, but there are certain Black communities that could definitely get out of this loop, this
Yeah.
mental mindset poor loop, and get out of the system.
Yeah.
Other examples are like Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos did not start off with a lot of money, but he got out of that loop. Doesn't matter of his skin color. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But to flip it on to Mr. Berger, do you think that we inflict ourselves with trauma in our community?
I think that we do make. I think again because I said again that poverty is the mother of crime,
Mm,
and dollars buy dignity. Money adds value to you, and when you're poor, we tend to make uh, we tend to have we tend to have positive and negative decisions in front of us all the time. You have decisions to make all the time when you're poor because again, there's days where I went to school and I'm starving. So when you say that, do we inflict um, ourselves? Yes, we do because poverty causes crime, but crime also causes poverty.
Yeah.
And people who are in poverty, they're trying to survive, and they don't care whether or not they're trying to they're going to hurt somebody else to get what they need to survive because you're
Yeah.
trying to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, so uh, even amongst ourselves, because there's like battle amongst ourselves even day because we're competitive. Man. We all try to be better than each, like to a certain extent. We all trying to compete with each other to be the best.
Yeah.
And growing up, being kids, what made being a kid in a poor neighborhood worthwhile was the kids around you, right? Because we all struggling together.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes we form a bond,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes other kids in another block form a bond.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And sometimes that bond clashes
Yeah.
together. Um, so we do inflict ourselves with trauma
Mm.
because we don't know better.
Yeah,
um, or we react on our impulses. We make
definitely.
we make temporary decisions because of a temporary situation.
Or, or potentially permanent decisions of a temporary situation.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
And just to add on to what y'all was saying, I definitely think we I definitely think we impose mental health issues on ourselves based off poverty stricken environments and circumstances. Growing up in the projects, like I mentioned, sometimes you know what I'm saying. Sometimes you didn't have it, and you went out and you did things to get it. And I remember various experiences that I encountered because I looked just a little bit cleaner than somebody else. You know what I'm saying? We both in the same circumstances, but my mom, you're here, and I'm like, I'm right here, and you're right here. You know what I'm saying? And just because I look better than you a little bit, or I got on a cleaner shirt or a cleaner pair of shoes, and your mind, and you don't got it, in your mind, you like, yo, I'm gonna go get it from him because he must have it. So I remember, one time, like, I actually got stuck up one time in the projects, like in my neighborhood, and I'm like, in that moment, it's just like it's like, you just want to survive. You know what I'm saying? You're not really thinking about the situation or what's going on. And I'm like, I remember like just having, that being pulled out on me. First time seeing a gun, like I'm like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, and then they say, hindsight is 2020. So, you get through that experience, and then as you get older, you sit down and you think about it, yo, why did that happen? That happened because this person thought I had something that he didn't have. And that right there imposes, you know, mental health issues on both of us. Because, for example, he's sticking me up, and you don't know what he's thinking after that situation. He probably going home like, yo, is this what I got to do in order to get it? You know what I'm saying? Is this the life that I gotta turn to in order just to make ends meet? I gotta continue to stick up people, rob people. What if I continue to do this and I get caught by the cops? Then what? So now that's on that person's mentality probably day in and day out. Yo, what if I potentially hurt somebody next time I stick them up? What if the cops get me? You know what I'm saying? And obviously that's gonna weigh down on him mentally. It's gonna cause a decline. And then for me being in that situation, now, every time I walk down that neighborhood, I'm looking over my shoulder like 30 times. You know what I'm saying? Now my paranoia is at an all-time high, and that's not something that we shouldn't be in a natural state like that. That's something that should temporarily happen. We shouldn't always be in a constant state of fear and a constant state of survival, because that's gonna increase stress, and it's gonna lead to a decline in our mentality. If we're
Yeah,
constantly in that state of mind, like, yo, I gotta look over my shoulders because last time I walked down this neighborhood, I didn't, and I got stuck up. Somebody put a gun in my face. So I feel like just that those certain encounters just continue to spread. It continues to spread, and it affects us. It affects us mentally,
yeah,
in a negative way, definitely. And then it's just perpetual. It just keeps going on until something or somebody breaks that negative cycle.
absolutely, absolutely. And kind of goes back to what Gio, the rapper that Gio brought up too earlier when he talked about Young Dolph and how he got shot.
Yeah,
When you listen to a lot of his music, you could hear the paranoia in his music. Um,
yeah,
about people coming to get him because he did get shot 100 times and they missed, and he made a whole song about it. But bro, I've heard bullets before, and I seen bullets go through gates and go through walls and go through windows and even go through bodies, and they don't have no names.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know the stress of that, of
Mhm.
not of what I mean. You walking outside, you don't know what the hell is going on. I remember one time I was supposed to go out with Gio. I'm about to I forget I'm about to walk out. I forget my phone, and then I go back outside, and then I'm walking and I hear bang bang bang, and I gotta walk back inside because I don't know what else is gonna happen. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So that so that constant, fear, anxiety, stress, fight or flight mode, where you like, damn, you anticipate, like you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen on a day to day basis. That kind of weighs in your mind, and you kind of and people don't people understate how much it weighs on your mind.
Mm,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're
yeah.
dealing with it every single day. This is not one day. This is
Yeah.
every single day. It's like
Hmm.
you got to gear up for the day because you got to gear up for high school. Because high school people fight for no reason. You bump somebody in high school, you get into a fight. You know, you talk to somebody's girl wrong, you getting jumped. Like so,
Black colleges too, man.
so and you seeing that. So it's like we we inflict each other's pain, even if it doesn't even have to do with us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
don't even have to do with us, and we flicking people that are in our community that doesn't have to do with the issue pain. So definitely,
Yeah. And to sort of shift the perspective a little bit, because we talk about going through those things, these encounters and these experiences and these circumstances because of poverty and how they affect us mentally. And sometimes we talk about it now in our state, but we were going through this as kids. And then right after going through this as kids, we had to go and sit down in the class and try to focus on education. And
mm,
you know what I'm saying? So let's kind of like shift the perspective. Like, how do you feel like on like us as kids and even kids in general? Because of course, kids today still probably experiencing the same things that we
mm,
experienced growing up. You know, so how do you? So if I could phrase that in a question, does poverty affect student learning?
mm. I got a lot to say on that. I don't know if I should go first or Gio should go first.
Let you go
I'll go
first.
super quick on that one.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
go ahead. Do your
Um,
thing.
so you all know I'm currently a teacher at
Yeah, we all
um,
educators here, bro. We know this guy.
yeah, and right now I'm currently teaching Algebra 1. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful subject to teach. But the demographic of kids that are in the building are African American males and females, young ones, very young, wonderful kids. However, being that their mindsets, growing up poor, it really daunts on them. And as soon as they hit the classrooms, they don't want to learn, especially during the pandemic season, which
Mm,
is even worse. Nobody want to wear a mask because
Mm,
it's uncomfortable during teaching season.
right.
um, Kids don't want to learn. So imagine coming from a home that there's barely any food, there's probably no clean water, you have no clothes, you have no good clothes to bring to school, and then you have to now wear a mask to class. You could barely breathe. Do go through subjects that you don't even want to hear about. Um, Go through all of these different things, and then you're already struggling through traumas that your parents are going through this, or maybe your siblings, you're raising your 6 siblings at home as well. And I have students that actually have these responsibilities. So going back and thinking about, do affect, if it poverty affects student learning? Of course, I strongly believe poverty affects student learning.
Mm,
100%.
wow,
mm.
that's crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
I mean, to I was reading this article the other day
Mhm.
from Harvard University and Princeton University. It was like a joint effort, and it said something that was so thought provoking for me. Like couple years
Mhm.
ago,
Yeah.
when I started teaching, and I was my first year, it was bad. My first year teaching was bad. I was always trying to figure out like what's going on. Why is it that? What do I need to do to present content to these students that come
Mhm.
from communities that resemble mine? And
Yeah.
while I was reading it, it kind of like shook me because it correlates with a lot of things that I went through.
Mm.
Um, and the article states this: it says, um, it has been shown that poverty depletes parents' cognitive resources, leaving less capacity for making everyday decisions about parenting. So parents are not able to make um, everyday parenting decisions because they're constantly at work, because they're poor, and usually when you're working minimum wage jobs, they're usually long hours and with low pay. And it says these parents are also at far greater risk for depression and anxiety. The poverty's mental tax. So they already says that poverty already gives a mental tax on people.
Yeah.
It says all of this has important implications for the children, right? And then it says when parents are distracted or depressed, family life is likely to be characterized by conflict and emotional withdrawal rather than nurturing and supportive relationships with children, which we just talked about recently with our parents not telling us that they love us.
Right.
They're constantly working and they're tired and they just want to. Again, we have to understand our parents have their own life too, and then to take care of another life is a different story.
Right.
Says parents don't talk and read to their kids as often and make less eye contact with them, which is true. You know what I mean? I definitely experienced that. And again, it's not at fault to
Yeah.
my mother. It's just the fault to the life that we lived in our community. And it's
Yeah.
this accumulation of stress in children's lives has cascading effects on the brain systems critical to learning, remembering, and reasoning. Those three things are important for kids to learn in classrooms, especially in my classroom, which teaches history. I'm pretty sure in Gio's classroom, it teaches math.
Yeah.
And when I'm reading this, I'm like, yo, like, no wonder certain kids um, don't want to learn, or certain kids back away from the education. I mean, or they give up easy because a lot of times when kids are on have their survival brain on, number one, they don't want to be wrong and they don't want to get embarrassed.
Right.
So all that goes into to prevention of learning because now that we cut in class, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember when I had the option to cut class in high school, I did. So um, all that things goes into factors into how our kids learn. Um, and then you got to put on top of that the clothes, the peer pressure. Kids, when we're kids, we always want the attention of our peers, and us constantly getting a negative reaction from our peers because of how we look, or did we take a shower? Because kids are mean. You know what I mean? Kids don't think, oh damn, this dude didn't take a shower, he must not have access to a shower. They thinking, oh, this dude didn't take a shower, he's dirty. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or oh, he's wearing the same sweater every day, he's broke, he's poor.
Yeah.
Kids will rank on you with that. And in high school, where you at. You know what I mean? When they gonna rank on you. Like they gonna come at you. You know what I mean? Not today. I mean, it's their fault, but they're young, they're kids.
Yeah.
But it does constantly dealing with that every day because it's not one day; it's every day.
Right.
That does have an effect on the mental health.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to go to school. Some people don't want it affects their grades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you think about it, Remy? Though.
I agree. I definitely agree with the points that Gio made, especially earlier, and the points that you just made. And it kind of ties back into a little bit what I was talking about earlier. Just different aspects of poverty and how it may affect us. You know what I'm saying? You guys talked about just simple things like the clothing aspect of it all. Growing up not wealthy has the next person, you can't afford certain things. Sometimes you may have to wear uniform, like Gio said earlier, or like you just said, you can't afford what was it, the Jordans that kids go crazy for nowadays, or certain, just certain expensive things that our parents look at and they're like, no, that's not a necessity. You know what I'm saying? Single parents, like I can barely afford rent. You want $300 pair of shoes? Nah, that's not gonna happen.
But you gotta understand, those $300 pair of shoes that give you a lot of affirmation. Everybody like, yo, you got those Jordans.
A lot of affirmations, but then that's probably a bill
is
that
it
your
worth
mom
it?
can't pay.
That's the thing. Was it
And
worth
you could
it?
get robbed.
Exactly. Then you gotta think about, and that's on the kid's mind. Like, yo, do I put my mom through this because her buying this for me means that she probably can't get something for herself. She probably can't afford a bill this month, or she gotta, stretch something, or there has to be some form of sacrifice. So that's on the kid's mind. And if he doesn't get it, now you gotta go to school, like you said, and they joking on him. Oh, you broke. You do wear the same thing all the time. Getting consistently ragged on, that's gonna affect you. Like, it's gonna put you in a mood. Like, it's gonna affect your mentality, because now instead of going to school and just worrying about your education, um, now you're worried about, what this person's gonna say to me, what does this person potentially may do to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you're worrying about, subcategories, when you should be focused on just education. So I feel like definitely that poverty aspect, and not being able to acquire just certain basic things that other students may have, you know, just that on a kid's mind, maybe that'll make him not want to go to school, pretend to be sick. I don't want to go to school, because if he goes to school, they're gonna joke on him. They're gonna make him feel bad. Him feeling consistently bad could lead to depression. You know what I'm saying? It could lead to anxiety. It could lead to him or her wanting to be a social outcast, because if I'm next to these people and they treat me like this, they do me like this, it's gonna make me feel bad about myself. It's gonna affect me, and then inadvertently or even directly affect my grades, because if I feel bad about myself, got low self-esteem, and I'm thinking low of myself, I don't want to listen to the teacher. I don't want to sit here for 45 minutes a period and listen to something when these kids are ragging on me. And then this is a whole separate topic, but then this is no snitching thing. So then that exacerbates the problem, because you're going through these things. It's affecting you mentally, because you're constantly thinking about it, constantly in that state.
You can't tell on nobody, because
But you can't tell. But you can't tell, because then you a snitch, and then that might make it worse.
For that.
Yeah, then it might make it worse depending on how teachers affect it. I mean, depending on how the teachers, step in and deal with that. So it's like, damn, I'm going through this. This is constantly on my mind, but then I can't talk about it to alleviate it, because then I'm a snitch. So it's just this revolving door of negativity, and the root of it is poverty that affects the mental, and then definitely affects student education.
Yeah, but just to touch on the no snitching thing, I think the no snitching thing is getting stupid. Because it's like, bruh, like the dude, if a dude is shooting in the community and he's not even aiming properly, and he's hitting some innocent bystanders, or he's doing some stupid stuff and he's affecting other people, like, yo, we gotta get him out, because it's not like, I feel like crime has been like fun and games in our community. Like that stuff becomes cool, and it's not cool until it happens to you. You know what I mean? Like we always be like, oh yeah, those fights happen. Oh yo, we want to see a fight. Oh yo, you got shot. Like all that air, like give gas in it up. It's stupid, because it's kind of like detrimental to us at the same time. Because the minute it happens to somebody in our region, then it's like, oh snap, wait, y'all play too much. But they be saying N-words, be playing too much. We can't have fun. But the minute it happens to you, it's like, oh okay.
But then it amplifies the fear aspect, because you see somebody doing that, you're like, yo, I'm a snitch. Two things that happen: they gonna come for you next for snitching, or two, you get excommunicated out of the neighborhood for snitching.
Different state, yep.
For snitching, so it's just like there's no win-win.
Yeah, but the mindset got to go away though, because like I see grown men grown adults, like like condoning negative behavior that leads to negative outcomes, and that's the issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a whole nother episode.
Episode. But you know what I mean? But like, just closing out whether or not kids being affected by it. There's only so much things you can mental, like hold in your mental before you break down.
Yeah.
I was going to say a word, but I can't get it out of my mind. I think it's compartmentalize. Yes, there you go. But like, there's so much things you could do, you could hold in your mind before you break down, and I feel like that's what we like noticing now in our community. Like all those things that we went through are like coming into a hay, and now we're just seeing it rampant because of Corona. Yeah. But that leads to another question that I have, and that, like,
in the realm of education.
In the realm of education, but like an offshoot, like because we
Mhm.
both, all three of us, selected education.
Mm.
We didn't choose a life of crime. We didn't choose to join any gangs. We didn't choose to drop out of high school. We didn't choose um, to have a child at an early age without being ready. We decided to take the education route seriously, which I feel like we don't give ourselves kudos for because we're numb to like we numbed ourselves to get to that position. So it's not
Yeah.
like we don't have like sometimes we don't pat ourselves in the back for it, for surviving what we had to survive and then still maintain ourselves to get an education.
Mm.
We all
And then nobody really respect teachers because they don't make no money.
we don't make no money. So
For real.
why do you think Gio, why do you think people pick different paths? Because we picked education, but we know people that we grew up with that picked something totally different. Why do you think that?
Yeah. So I'm picking up why is it different? Why we came with different outcomes?
Yeah, different
Yeah.
outcomes.
Yeah, man. That's a powerful question. Only because I think about it a lot to myself. I could have ended up somewhere in the street, probably doing 20 in jail. I could have probably been doing a lot of things. But the position that I'm in right now as a teacher, like you just said, is a great outcome because, again, we came from places where the statistic says, yo, Gio, you were supposed to end up in such and such, but you became a teacher. Now, the why, man, I don't know why it came this way, but for me, I can only speak on my personal experience. Um, I just had to really believe in myself. I sat there and really thought like a brother like me could actually get a biology degree, and I had to trick myself into to believing that because I wasn't really good in biology. I came into Mega Evers, and this dude knows, Berger knows. I graduated high school with a 72 GPA. Berger graduated with a 76, and he got accepted to York.
Mhm.
I got accepted to Kingsborough, and that was it.
He was
and then
he
and
was
then
beating
Berger
me in college too, man. I remember we had competitions in college, and Gio was destroying me early in the
and
college
then I had
career.
to I had to change my mindset. Yo, bro, I had to
Mhm.
trick myself to say, yo, I did horrible in high school,
Yeah.
but once you hit college, yo, you better get your ish together. And then,
Yeah.
bro, I hadn't finished with a 3.6 GPA. You know what I'm saying? 4 years in it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So like anything is possible. You know what I mean? Really and truly,
Shout out to Henny, man.
shout out to Henny. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then, just going back to it is, the idea of outcomes, probability. I'm huge on math. Probability just means there's a possibility of a certain outcome.
Mm.
So my outcome was very thin, like to become successful.
Mm.
That outcome was super thin, but I just had to believe in it to tell myself, like, hey, this could work out. This could be Geo one day, and it actually did. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But to pass that baton to Burger, man, I want to hear what your sounds are. What why is it that your outcome came out different? Why is it that you're not in the game?
Mm. So I like what you said about probability because I do feel like life is a series of choices, and depending on and some choices are statistically gives you a higher chance of being successful, and other choices gives you a lower chance of being successful.
Mm.
Um, that's just with every decision in life. Nothing is like 100% guaranteed. So what I realized is that I just made better decisions,
Mhm.
and I had the people around me. Because yes, I did grow up, in my building. Like on my side of the building, there was the blood gang, and on the other side of the building there was a Crick gang, and you oftentimes you think that those communities don't intersect, but they do. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I was going to one of my boys' house on the fourth floor. Shout out to Luke. And I walked in there one day, and it's like the top gang leader sitting in there. We all playing 2K, and he's just a
Yeah.
regular person. And you
Mm.
realize, like, yo, we do come from the same area, that same time. But I'm like, damn, what made you choose that lifestyle? Other than the lifestyle that I choose, and it's just, having the right support systems around you, having the right role models. Because, like I said before, in our community, it's kind of like Russian roulette.
Mm.
Russian roulette meaning that a black boy comes out and it's whatever role models that he attached to.
Mm.
How do we know that? I said that poverty is the mother of crime. How do we know that? Because there's hoods everywhere in America. What we
Yeah.
call as hoods, they call urban. The media calls low income areas or urban areas. There's hoods everywhere. There's hoods in
Mm.
Florida. There's hoods in Boston. There's hoods in Los Angeles. There's hoods in Little Rock. There's hoods in the Midwest. Why is that? Because the common thread is poverty, and
Mm.
and in a poverty situations, people are more likely to make negative choices because you're surviving.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
doesn't exempt them. It doesn't exempt them from making those negative choices because we always been poor.
Yeah.
We always been poor. We've been poor since slavery. But throughout that time, as we progress through America, and through the amount of white support, Asian support, Jewish support that we have, we progress through those areas. Now we're at a position where we could get our education. It's easier to get our education, but we still make the opposite choice.
Right.
That choice, for some reason, in our community, is just more appealing.
Yeah.
It's more appealing because, and this is just a whole different podcast, because of what we see.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What we see, because we all three. I know for myself. Let me speak for myself. I was attracted to gang life. I thought gang members was like the shit. You know what I mean? I thought
Yeah.
it was like the thing. You know what I mean? My favorite rapper was The Game, and he was part of a gang. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it always um intrigued you. But when you actually thought about, like, when you actually hear what goes on in it, where you
Mm.
gotta shoot somebody, you gotta go rob somebody, you gotta get beat up to get in. What?
Yeah.
So I gotta sit there and fight 3, 4, 5 people.
Right. Right.
You're like, nah, that's not.
You like, I'm too pretty for this, man.
I don't know, I don't know about
That's dope.
this, but it ain't for me. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? I'm a type of person that I'm not gonna just engage in a fight with somebody just because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all that is, it kind of just leads to people making those difficult decisions. Um, and I don't want to coddle nobody from my community who make those negative decisions, because I do feel like it's still a choice.
Yeah.
You know what I
Definitely.
mean?
Definitely.
What you think, Remy?
For me personally, coming from a poverty-stricken neighborhood and choosing education and choosing to be an educator, I think at a point in my life, I just started thinking about what was next and thinking about who came next and what came, not just what came next, but specifically who came next. I started thinking about the next generation, and I started conceptualizing that and seeing myself within them and understanding that, I came from a poverty stricken neighborhood, and that led to certain um, mental health issues within me that affected my education.
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, I still was able to, persevere, get my education, and go into this field. And I started thinking about the kids. And I started thinking about first myself, like what enabled me to get through that, and it was certain people that I met. So I was like, pay back by paying it forward. Let me become the same person that this person was for me growing up, that got me over that hump. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like a lot of times instead of us coming back to our communities, we leave it. You know what I'm saying? We forget where we came from, and we don't go back and help or try to make it better. You know what I mean? And when I came into education, I had opportunities to go to a whole bunch of different schools, but I specifically wanted to go to the demographic that looked like me. I wanted to go to those neighborhoods. And everyone was telling me, yo, why you trying to go to those neighborhoods? And they didn't understand. I'm like, I want to go and try to make it better. I want to go and try to help the kids that look like me and the kids that are going through what I went through. Because, one little gesture can make a big difference. You know what I'm saying? You becoming a teacher and a kid, seeing somebody that's standing in front of him that looks like him and they could relate and they could connect with that teacher, that could be the catalyst that pushes them forward and not allows them to succumb to whatever it is that is a direct correlation from their poverty. You know what I mean? Growing up, I didn't have not one. My first male teacher that looked like me, I didn't see them until I hit college. You know what I'm saying? You know how heavy that is in our communities. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of kids growing up not only in poverty, and this could be a separate conversation, not only in poverty, but they don't got their fathers in their lives. So when they get to school and they see, yo, black teacher, black male that looks like me, carries himself well, you know what I'm saying? He speaks well, he knows his education. It's just like, yo, I could do this. You know what I'm saying? I could this dude, son. It's like I could do this. I could persevere and I could overcome, what I'm going through because of my poverty. It's leading to direct, mental health issues, and it's affecting my education. If I have this teacher that's standing in front of me that looks like me, and he potentially went through it because I share my experiences with my students, then why can't I do it? I definitely could do it. You know what I'm saying? And that was the catalyst for me.
Yeah, you know what? I know we about to close, but I like that you brought up the that's definitely a separate topic, the lack of male figures.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time now people join gangs for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons, other than popularity or other than just because it's cool, it's also just because they want to be a part of something, to belong to something. Because every human wants to have affirmations and they want to feel like they belong to something. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they don't got that love at home, and the gang is what gives them that love.
Yeah.
And we all seek that love. You know what I mean? For us to travel the path that we traveled, it definitely took a lot of mental fortitude because we had to quiet the noise on the outside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The noise that says, yo, school ain't really that cool. Or why are you in there? Why are you doing that? Or like, it kind of like when we went to school, it's like, that's why we're so close, because we all met in school. It's like we all was like going on that same path.
Right.
And that path is not the path that most of us traveled on.
Right.
You know, because there's not a lot of black professionals, right? There's a lack of black male teachers, which we need, because there are proven statistics that said that black teachers make an impact on black students.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Especially black males, because then now other males have an image to inspire to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not enough to have one, because they might not like me. They might like you, Remy, or they might like Gio. You know what I mean?
I mean, everybody like me better, so it's not your fault.
Exactly, man. It's the dread, bro. So, I know we're closing out, but I like that you brought that up. And it just ties back into poverty, because again, dollar buys dignity. Money adds value to you. And when you don't have it, you don't feel that you're valued. So you seek validations in somewhere else.
That's powerful. I think that's a powerful note to end on.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all want to give y'all closing remarks. We want to go first before we close out, because I know
I'm just trying to get to. You close it out.
You want me to close out? I gotta hurry up and close it out because I know you're trying to watch that game. So I think today was a powerful episode. Appreciate having our guest Gio come on and contribute into that conversation. Definitely made a positive impact. So appreciate you having you here. And just the overarching idea is just, how does poverty lead to mental health issues in our neighborhoods. And we talked about different things that it connects to and different circumstances that it arises. It can bring in just how can we overcome it. And I think this is one of the ways we can overcome it, just bringing it to the table, having a conversation about it so we all could be aware of it and we can take the necessary steps to try to overcome it. Also connected different rap lyrics to it, which I thought was powerful because, that's kids are heavily into rap music and listening to that. But I feel like the most important thing with that is to use those rap lyrics to have a positive impact on you. If you're in that circumstance, you listen to the song, you allow it to motivate you and allow it to enable you to do better. I think on that note, until next time, family.
Oh wait, hold on. We gotta give our
wait,
closing too, G.
Wait. I'm not done. I'm not done. Don't cut me off.
Go ahead.
I was like, yo, just slow down. I was like, I think that's a powerful note, and I'm gonna switch it over to Gio, let him give his closing, and then you pass it to Ivans. Ivans, you close us out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This dude paranoid, son. That's that paranoia, bro.
To close the show before Gio get us in, man. Go ahead, G.
Yeah, but yeah, I do appreciate y'all having me on the show. And having this deep topic, talking about poverty and how it affects the mental mind. I thought that was a very deep conversation that we had. Just to close, anybody that does watch us that's probably going through that struggle, that's probably going through the idea of, I don't know what my tomorrow is going to look like. If you did hear our words, we did speak a lot about our experiences, and to trickle it down, just have faith in something and just try to push yourself into something so you could find the sweet silver lining for a better tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the best way I could kind of align all of the things that we kind of spoke about today, in one jewel. So if anybody out there needs that help, just stay motivated, push through, and I know that you guys could do it.
This is G about to make me cry with his closing out, son. Dang, bro.
Definitely, G.
All right, Mr. Burger, close us out, bro.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you guys for being so candid and open today. It's a lot, you know what I mean? Because to go to talk about this episode, we definitely had to open a lot of closets. We didn't go to the conversations of us crying and because it did take a lot of crying and telling ourselves to stop crying and talking to the demons in our heads. The demons that want to tell you that you're not good enough, the demons that want to tell you that you're not that smart. The world is already telling you this. Why can't you get the picture? You got to fight those things. And my closing remarks is kind of just affirmation in our communities is important. You know what I mean? But the right affirmation, the positive affirmation. You know what I mean? Time spent is the biggest affirmation, for another person. It shows you value the person. And I think too many times the negative energies, the negative energy, the negative imagery, the negative talk is bringing down our youth and our community. And we need to start affirming each other. You know what I mean? We need to start saying greetings and being positive with each other and turning the other cheek with each other, because if we don't do that, we're going to continue on a cycle, and we need to end that cycle. Right? We need to end that cycle together, because I remember, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, I promise, in the civil rights movement, when they were trying to integrate the buses, our ancestors was walking on their bare feet. You know what I mean? To make sure that we got integrated buses, and and they were poor too.
Right.
They were probably walking on with one shoe. Now we got multiple shoes. So now we need to start doing more of sacrificing for each other, just like our ancestors did, for us to be in the position that we are today.
Definitely. That was powerful, bro.
That peace.
Peace, prosperity, Black
Antonio
Power.
Brown leaving the field. Let Antonio Brown lead the field, man.
All right, family. Later.